Hajer and Lars, welcome to the Nobel Peace Center and the Peace Bench, and congratulations on the Voice of Dialogue for August 2022.
Thank you.
To include all relevant parties is a key principle in good dialogue. And we are delighted to note that you were a best practice example of this principle when you gathered 11 Libyans at Utøya to discuss very, very difficult issues. So with that, we are very much honored to give you this award.
Thank you so much.
Hajer, can you tell us shortly about the current situation in Libya?
So, to put it simply, the current situation is quite difficult and complex. Libya and Libyans are going through a lot of hardships because of the political insecurity and instability. Currently there is a political conflict, and as part of this, a solution to solve the conflict is to have elections, but the path to the elections is becoming increasingly vague, which of course results in uncertainty and fears that the political conflict could turn into an armed conflict, unfortunately.
So with very much oppositions, you have two parliaments, is that right? And two prime ministers. So why was it important for you to gather at Utøya, I think?
Well, there's two parts to this question. The first one is, why is it important to gather? And that's of course, it really comes from the belief that we have to sit and talk, as you know, we are here on this bench, and that the solution to any conflict of any sort at any scale is to really sit and talk. And then the second part of this question, which is why Utøya? And of course, Utøya is, for us, is a place of hope. It's a place of hope for young people, and it's also a reminder and a living example that you know, you can still build and rebuild after a tragic event such as the one that took place at Utøya took place.
Lars, what was the most surprising thing that happened to, as you see it, at Utøya the week they were gathered?
Well, I think the most surprising thing was, first of all, the request coming all the way from Libya, that Utøya as a place, as Hajer say, as a place for hope and resilience in the wake of terror and horrible events, had inspired also Libyans in the difficult situation that they are in, and with a long history of conflict there as well, to come to Utøya and use this place and see it as a relevant place for their peace initiatives. That was very inspiring and also a bit surprising for us.
What would you say was the most inspiring part of the meeting?
I would say, of course, seeing my fellow Libyans coming together, putting our differences aside, and really taking the opportunity to seriously discuss some of the most pressing and difficult issues in Libya, and collectively trying to find solutions that puts Libya and Libyans at the center. So this is, of course, was extremely inspiring, and also it was inspiring to see how we work together, a Libyan organization with an organization from Norway. The way, you know, our partnership was flawless, and I think we did a really good job in complementing each other's work, you know.
So the dialogue will continue also after they left Utøya. I think you made a foundation for further discussions.
So, as you know, with any dialogue initiative, there is always the aim to continue, you know, because simply it is the most important thing to do, to continue the dialogue in whatever form that is possible.
This is not new to you at Utøya, to facilitate dialogue. How do you work with dialogue and democratic issues at Utøya?
Well, Utøya has, as you know, a very long history of youth engagement as a meeting place for different voices, discussing difficult issues, important issues in society. It was that before the terror attacks in 2011. It was part of the reason why it was attacked in 2011. And that work continues also after, and it's an important part of what we are doing today. As Haji was saying, it's a place now of hope, of resilience, and we see that every day when we have young people coming to our school, students, others using Utøya as a place to discuss important and difficult issues and things that concerns them.
Being at Utøya is a constant reminder of the importance of dialogue, isn't it? Because it's so present when you're there, what happened.
Very much.
And you have been able to build it very carefully, to using that as a platform, but not as the only thing, because you're building positively on it. So it's very.
Yes, and of course it's a place where you always have the history very, very present, and it's a constant reminder, and also a very, very needed reminder in many ways, that you cannot take democracy for granted. And when you talk about these issues, you are constantly reminded when at Utøya of what can happen if you really don't take it seriously, and acknowledge that even in a peaceful country like Norway, this is a potential threat.
Roger, how did you manage to get everyone around the table and to gather at Utøya, or all together to sit down and talk? How did you?
Well, I think one of the reasons is, of course, our sort of unique situation or position in Libya, where as an organization we are politically neutral, we are impartial, we're not involved in any political process, so to say. I'm also quite sure, I mean, of course, that played a role, but I'm also quite sure that we've done few things that reassured the participants that this is a safe space. But I would say the real credits goes to them, the participants who agreed to come, who still came despite the difficult situation some of them were in, despite the difficult situation on the ground. And seeing them there, being committed to dialogue, being committed to Libya, this also shows that they would be willing to support and engage with initiatives that they really see that it's genuine and that it puts Libya at the center of it. So the real credit goes to them more than us.
That's nice. I met some of them. It was amazing. It was amazing. What would you say is the key facilitation issue when you gather people like this to actually achieve dialogue and possibly some results moving forward?
Well, the first step is, of course, bringing people together, which is often difficult enough. Once you have people together, it's about creating a safe space for people to express themselves, to feel that you have to generate some trust in the room. You have to be able to speak openly and freely. And I think this is something that we managed to do at Utøya. Time is important. You need time to build that trust and make sure that people are in a position where they feel that they can talk freely without potential repercussions or consequences outside of that room, and then you can build from there.
At Utøya, you gathered young people and women. Maybe it goes without saying, but would you like to explain to us why it's important to build on young people's voices and have them included?
I mean, for us, the answer to that is very simple. It really stems from our belief that peace is a public good, so everyone should have the right to enjoy it, but also should have the right and the opportunity to contribute to shaping and building peace. If we see historically or sort of the ways of peace building in a conventional way, it seems to be focused on, more or less, let's say, decision makers or a very specific group of people. And for us, we see that the role that young people play, women play, in their communities when it comes to building peace is very important, and that's why that needs to be brought to the peace table, because they are doing a lot of work on the ground, so it's also important to take that work and bring it to the decision-making table.
Actually influencing their
of course.
communities, yes. Okay, thank you so much, and with that I'm delighted to give you the diploma. So, Hajar, and together we build it, and to the Utøya. Thank you so much. And then also our little book on dialogue. Those who listen change the world, and this is inspired by Nobel laureates that has used dialogue as a principle and method in changing the world. So lastly, could you very, very briefly, who is your favorite Nobel Peace Prize laureate? Lars?
Well, in a long line of worthy laureates, I would go with Nelson Mandela.
The best weapon is to sit down and talk.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Haji?
There is a lot who are definitely my favorite, but I have to go with Kofi Annan, who I had the chance to meet and work with and be inspired by him. So mine is Kofi.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And good luck with your work going forward.